Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're taking a deep dive into a phrase we all know but maybe don't always live by. Actions speak louder than words.
hmm
For something so, universally understood, why do we find it so incredibly hard to actually live by it?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
We've pulled together a fascinating collection of reflections, research, and personal observations to really unpack the psychology, the literature, even the social dynamics behind this simple yet, well, profound idea.
It's a rich topic indeed because it challenges us really to look beyond just the surface-level interactions and truly consider what defines us and our relationships.
Right.
Our mission today is to extract the most important nuggets of knowledge from these sources, helping you understand not just what this phrase means, but why it matters in your daily life and perhaps, why we so often fall short.
We're going to pull back the curtain on this simple truth, looking at everything from the stories we tell ourselves to, the unspoken rules of modern social life and how they shape our willingness to truly show up. Prepare to maybe reconsider how your own words and actions align and what that means for your relationships.
Absolutely.
So let's jump right into the core of it. We all kind of know words are cheap, actions are costly, but the material we've explored reveals this profound psychological battle playing out when those two clash. What actually happens when our words don't quite match our deeds?
Well, what's fascinating here is that when words and actions do align, they create this incredible reinforcement, right? They build trust.
Yeah.
But when they don't, actions almost always dominate our perception. They represent tangible reality, commitment.
That makes sense.
Think about it.
Yeah.
People who talk big but then fail to act, they often lose credibility instantly.
Right, you just stop believing them.
Exactly. Whereas the quiet doers, those who simply show up without needing to narrate themselves constantly, they build deep trust precisely because their actions speak volumes, no explanation needed.
That's a powerful point. So it's not just about what we say, but what we teach others through our actions. This makes me think about the stories we craft about ourselves. We often say things like, oh, I'm a caring person, or I'm always there for my friends. What happens when those self-narratives don't quite align with our actions?
Yeah, that gap. That's where it gets tricky. The space between who we say we are and what we actually do, it's often driven by what psychologists call cognitive dissonance.
Right, that discomfort.
Exactly. That uncomfortable mental gymnastics we do to convince ourselves we're still good, even when our actions might tell a different story. And sometimes it's purely aspirational self-talk, a narrative we want to embody, but haven't quite stepped into yet.
So not necessarily bad intentions.
Not always, no. But without action, those statements risk becoming just wishful thinking, or a kind of self-deception maybe, rather than a true reflection of reality.
Have others see it.
Well, if that gap grows too wide, others might perceive us as self-deluded or fake or even sometimes manipulative, even if the intention was just aspirational. Perception still bends towards action.
This resonates so strongly with that classic writing advice, show, don't tell.
Exactly.
It feels like the universe's own rule for integrity or something.
Absolutely. It's a perfect parallel.
Yeah.
In fiction, if an author tells you a character is noble, but then shows them gossiping or exploiting others.
You immediately distrust the character, or the author even.
Right. As readers, we sense that hypocrisy instantly. Conversely, if a character is labeled a villain, but consistently performs acts of kindness, we feel empathy, right? We start questioning the story's judgment.
Yeah, you root for them despite the label.
That resonance and dissonance is incredibly powerful. We inherently trust behavior more than labels or stated intentions. It perfectly mirrors life, where your reputation is really built through consistent action, not just the words you use.
So how does this tension, this push and pull between words and actions play out in our daily lives? Particularly with the people closest to us, thinking about, that friend who constantly talks about their skills but then kind of blunders.
Or the one who says, I'm always here for you.
But is never actually there when you need them. Yeah.
Well, a key takeaway here, I think, is about sincerity. Someone who talks big but fails in execution. They can come across as arrogant, maybe, or perhaps insecure, using words as a shield to cover their own cracks.
A cover-up.
Possibly. And that friend who makes all of the verbal promises but then is absent, their inaction teaches us, doesn't it? It teaches us that their words are more like a script, not a real promise.
Ouch. Yeah.
Actions expose the true sincerity or lack thereof, while words often just expose the intention, which isn't always the same thing.
That's a really sharp distinction.
And this also ties into those social scripts we often fall back on, right? That surface-level small talk we all engage in.
You mean like when someone says, oh, we should totally hang out sometime. Maybe they even mean it in the moment, but then nothing.
Exactly. That's a classic example. And the material we looked at really highlighted the risks involved there, while polite phrases like that might maintain, social acceptability.
Keeps things smooth on the surface.
Right. But without follow-through, the conversations never deepen. It can lead to stagnation in relationships. And the other person, they often sense the hollowness, right? It leads to this subtle erosion of trust over time.
So those scripts, they protect us from vulnerability.
But they also block real intimacy.
Yeah.
And if everyone sticks to them, communities can actually become quite shallow, maybe even lonely.
It really raises a fascinating question then, doesn't it? Why, especially in an era where we talk so much about authenticity, do we still so often default to just words? How frequently do our actions actually live up to them?
It's almost like we choose the easy path instinctively.
Is that what it is?
The answer, unfortunately, from what we've seen is often yes. We default to words. They're just easier, safer, more abundant even.
That's less cost.
Much less costly. Talking takes little energy. Showing care through your time or making a sacrifice. That requires significant risk and effort.
Right.
Scripts and those performative phrases, they act as social lubrication. They create the appearance of connection without demanding too much from us.
And maybe words let us feel like we're being the person we want to be.
Absolutely. Words allow us to author ourselves, to create these identities, even if our lives don't perfectly align with them. And crucially, sometimes saying something can feel like enough, like the promise is already fulfilled just by speaking it.
Wow, so the words become a stand-in for the action itself.
Paradoxically, yes, that can happen.
And the sobering truth then, according to the research, is that actions reflect words. Well, less often than we'd probably like to admit.
Sadly, yes. This holds true for everything from personal goals like New Year's resolutions, we all know how those go,
Yeah.
to social promises like let's catch up soon, and even our broader moral alignment, what we say we believe versus how we actually behave.
So why does that gap exist so strongly?
Well, part of it is that cognitive dissonance, again, that uncomfortable feeling when our actions don't match our beliefs. So we kind of narrate goodness even when our actions lag behind to make ourselves feel better. And it's also that aspirational self-talk. We genuinely want to be that person who follows through. Plus, cultural scripts play a role. Society often rewards appearance, the way things look.
So it's easier to just say the right thing.
It can feel that way. Ultimately, while words are efficient placeholders for intent, our human limits, lack of resources, lack of courage sometimes, or just lack of time, often prevent follow-through.
Which makes the times when actions do align feel really powerful.
Incredibly powerful, precisely because it can be rare. That's what builds profound trust and reputation.
So what does this all mean for why this gap seems so, pervasive in modern life? It sounds like some really powerful forces are at play. You mentioned time, burnout, comfort, maybe even consumer culture.
Yeah, what's fascinating here is how these modern conditions seem to make follow-through much harder than just speaking. Take time, for instance.
Just running out of it.
Exactly. It's become this precious currency. Saying, I'll be there, costs seconds, right? But actually showing up, that costs hours, potentially. Effort.
Energy.
And burnout. Burnout definitely tilts the scales heavily towards inaction. Even when our intentions are genuinely good, we just might not have the capacity.
Makes sense.
And our culture of comfort, let's be honest, leisure activities or just relaxing often win out over social obligations that might feel like effort.
The path of least resistance.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And maybe even consumerism trains us to think more transactionally, filtering actions through a kind of cost-benefit logic, which can make purely selfless action feel, rare.
So the cumulative effect is?
The results can be that we normalize a certain shallowness. Trust erodes quietly. Friendships might stagnate. Communities can become more performative than genuinely connected. And all this can lead to loneliness, because meaningful bonds, the deep ones, they're truly built on action, on showing up.
We've talked a lot about giving our actions, making our actions match our words, but what about asking for action from others? The material we reviewed also delves into that equally challenging flip side. How likely are we to actually ask for help, even if we say we crave vulnerability?
Ah, yes. That's a crucial piece. And it raises an important question about priorities, doesn't it? Actions reveal what truly matters to a person, not just what they claim matters.
How so?
Well, words often represent our aspirations, the version of ourselves we want to believe in or want others to see. But actions are the allocation of our finite resources. Time, energy, money.
Where we actually put our effort.
Exactly. And the gap between that aspiration, our words, and the actual allocation, our actions, shows our real hierarchy of values, what we truly prioritize.
So when people don't follow through,
It might mean they care less than they said. Or maybe they care differently than you expected. Or sometimes they're simply overextended, genuinely unable to act despite wanting to.
but the result can be damaging.
Oh, absolutely. It can lead to trust breaking down, resentment growing, and ultimately a kind of painful clarity emerging about the relationship.
And it's not just about not asking for big favors, right? It's also how we often fall back on those really superficial social scripts, like a quick, how are you?
Yes. Instead of daring to ask deeper questions that might require a real, maybe vulnerable answer from them or from us.
So why is asking for help so hard?
Well, the difficulty often stems from a deep-seated fear of burdening others, or maybe pride, or just the uncertainty of how they'll respond, that fear of rejection or of not getting the support we need.
Even if we say we value vulnerability.
Right. We might say we value it, but our actions staying silent, not reaching out, often contradict those stated desires. Think about it like this. On a questionnaire, we'd all probably check, yes, I'd reach out to a struggling friend.
Of course.
But in real life, we might ghost them or delay responding or offer a quick platitude instead of real support.
That phrase, I forgot.
Oh yeah, I forgot. How often is that really about memory? Sometimes it's just avoidance, isn't it? Avoidance turned into a polite, socially acceptable cover story. So there's this kind of two-way vulnerability gap. As potential givers of support, we often choose comfort over effort. And as potential receivers, we withhold the very request that could build closeness out of fear.
So we crave deeper relationships.
But we subtly sabotage them by choosing the safer word over the riskier, but potentially more rewarding action.
It really feels like a cultural paradox then. We all know these truths show don't tell, actions speak louder than words. They're practically cliches.
Exactly.
But our social structures, our daily habits, they seem to quietly train us to do the exact opposite much of the time.
Yes, precisely. These phrases are almost cliches, yet their power comes from how rarely they seem to be truly lived out consistently. Modern society often elevates the self over the community, doesn't it?
You see it everywhere.
From self-branding online to, self-care, sometimes becoming this universal justification for withdrawal, for not showing up for others.
It's a controversial take on self-care.
It can be, but think about how it's sometimes used. We might feel empathy for someone, but it's often just a brief checkpoint before we turn inward again. The feeling becomes self-soothing rather than genuinely other-serving.
So comfort becomes the goal.
Comfort has become the new default in many ways, and that can dull our willingness to be inconvenienced, even slightly, for others. This individualist framing, it can lead to trust erosion, shallower communities, and this kind of isolation masked as wellness.
We know the wisdom.
But we struggle with the discipline of discomfort, the effort required for meaningful action.
It's really interesting how intuitively we seem to grasp these dynamics even before we look at the formal research. What are some of those key studies or findings that really underscore these points we've been discussing?
Indeed. The research lines up quite well with these reflections. For instance, studies consistently show a strong reluctance to ask for help.
Really?
Yeah, research reveals many students are hesitant to seek mental health support, and adults often avoid it too, mainly due to fears of appearing weak or being judged.
We also underestimate if people will help, right?
Exactly. We tend to underestimate others' willingness to help, which makes the act of asking even harder than it needs to be.
What about empathy versus compassion?
Good point. Data shows that compassionate environments, places where people actively support each other, reduce burnout. But interestingly, excessive empathy, just feeling with someone without taking action, can actually lead to fatigue or compassion fatigue.
So there's a difference.
A crucial one. Empathy is feeling with others. Compassion includes taking action to alleviate their suffering. Action is key.
And culturally.
Culturally, research suggests collectivist societies tend to be more likely to help members of their own group compared to more individualistic societies. This aligns with concepts like the diffusion of responsibility.
Where if there are more people around, everyone assumes someone else will help.
Precisely. And finally, there's the helper therapy principle, which suggests that actually giving help can improve the helper's own well-being. So acting isn't just good for the receiver.
Fascinating. So these gaps, these tendencies, they're common and predictable.
Yes, in overcoming the stigma around asking for help and our own assumptions about others seems to be the real hurdle.
This brings us to a really practical question then. How can we become more mindful, more intentional about aligning our words and actions? And maybe related to that, is it true that most people are sort of speakers before thinkers? Do we just talk first?
That's a great question. And yes, research does offer some practical strategies for mindfulness here. One simple one is just to pause before promising anything.
Take a beat.
Yeah. Studies show we tend to overcommit verbally because of something called present bias. We focus on the ease of saying yes now and discount the effort required later. We're overly optimistic about our future selves.
I can relate to that.
We all can. Another strategy is to translate words into concrete steps, using what psychologists call implementation intentions, basically, making a specific plan. If X happens, I will do Y.
Makes it more real.
Much more. Also, maybe audit your own ratio of words to actions. Just notice the patterns. How often do you say, let's hang out, without actually setting a date? We probably all are sometimes. Focus on small, consistent actions over big, grand speeches. And, importantly, hold yourself accountable or find ways to be held accountable.
And the speakers before thinkers idea?
Cognitive science suggests, yeah, often. Our brains are wired for efficiency, right? Speech is our fastest social tool. We use it to buy goodwill, avoid conflict, manage impressions quickly. Think about Daniel Kahneman's work on System 1 and System 2 thinking.
Fast and slow thinking.
Exactly. We often default to those fast, automatic verbal responses, especially in social settings. It connects to Irving Goffman's idea of life as performance, self-presentation bias. Words are the quickest way to deliver our script.
Even if the action behind it isn't quite ready.
Right. It's an energy economy thing. Our brains often try the cheaper route first speech, especially when navigating complex relationships.
That's a great insight into how our brains work, prioritizing that efficiency. So is one approach inherently better than the other then? Speaking before thinking or really thinking it through before speaking?
Well, that's an important question. And the answer is probably, it depends, right? Neither mode is inherently superior all the time. It's really about situational awareness.
Okay.
Speaking before thinking, that spontaneity, it can bring energy, speed, creativity sometimes. It captures raw emotion.
Isn't that the downside?
Big risks, right. You risk causing harm, losing credibility, saying something you regret deeply.
And thinking before speaking.
That offers precision, clarity, emotional regulation. It helps build trust. But it has downsides too.
Like what?
Well, you can miss the moment. Your timing might be off. You might seem distant or calculating. Or you can get stuck in analysis paralysis, afraid of saying the wrong thing, so you say nothing.
So the skill is flexibility.
Exactly. Knowing when to lean on spontaneity and when to filter. In close relationships, usually thoughtful speech is better, but moments of spontaneous affection or support are powerful too.
And professionally?
In professional settings, thinking first usually wins, building credibility, but brainstorming sessions, for instance, thrive on that unfiltered, spontaneous speech.
So it's about choosing the right tool for the job.
Precisely. Adapting your approach.
Okay, finally, let's dig into the nuances and maybe even some counter-arguments to this whole actions speak louder than words idea. Because as we've discussed, it's clearly not quite as simple as the phrase makes it sound.
Absolutely. It's a powerful principle,
Yeah.
but it gets complicated in practice. It's essential to look at it from all sides.
So what's the first complication?
Well, firstly, words can absolutely be actions in themselves. Think of a heartfelt promise, a sincere apology, or maybe a legal vow.
Like I do.
Exactly. Without those specific words, the action doesn't truly exist or doesn't have the same meaning. And words, spoken at the right time, can be profoundly healing, can't they?
Definitely. Okay, what else?
Secondly, actions without words can be easily misread. Someone showing up quietly to help might be misinterpreted if they don't offer a word of explanation for their intent.
Right, you might wonder why they're there.
Precisely. Thirdly, privilege and accessibility play a huge role. Not everyone has the capacity, the resources, or the physical ability to act equally in every situation. Sometimes words are all someone has.
That's a really important point.
Fourth, aspirational words do have value. Saying, I want to be a better friend, even if you're not there yet, can genuinely be the first step towards change. It sets an intention.
It signals a direction.
Yes. Fifth, silent actions can go completely unnoticed or unappreciated. Think of a parent working incredibly long hours to provide, without words explaining why the sacrifice their absence might just be seen as neglect.
The intention gets lost.
It can. Emotionally, sometimes speech is the only outlet a struggling person has. The only way they can act is by voicing their pain or need. And finally, context matters hugely. In an acute crisis, yeah, actions clearly outweigh words. Someone needs help now. But in a long-term relationship, silence, the absence of words, can wound just as much as neglectful actions.
Silence can be an action too, in a way.
A very loud one, sometimes. There's also the risk of overglorifying action for action's sake. Action without reflection can be reckless or harmful.
So it's not just actions over words.
No. Perhaps the truest statement, the one that captures the complexity, is that actions and words really need each other. Actions prove, but words explain and give context. Words inspire, but actions fulfill the promise.
Harmony between them.
That's the ideal, yes.
Wow, what an incredible deep dive into a phrase we all thought we understood, maybe took for granted. We've seen how actions speak louder than words isn't just about simple integrity, is it?
Not at all.
It's about this profound, often messy interplay between our intentions and our reality, deeply shaped by our own psychology and increasingly by modern culture.
It truly pushes us to reflect on our own lives, doesn't it?
Yeah.
We say we value support, kindness, presence. We talk about authenticity.
Right.
But the real test, as we've explored today, often comes down to this. When our comfort bumps up against the need for action, which one do we choose? More often than we'd like to admit, perhaps.
Yeah. And the core reflection here, it seems, isn't about picking words or actions as better. It's about weaving them together, recognizing that maybe our brains push us towards the easy path of just words, but our true impact, our integrity, comes from bridging that gap. Words inspire, actions fulfill, and it's their harmony that creates depth, trust, and genuine human connection.
Well said.
So maybe the question for all of us listening is, what actions, maybe even small ones, will you take today to bridge the gap between your words and your intentions?